Another day, another Marvel movie. It just seems like these movies come out every 3 months at this point, but it's a pretty good thing. I've been really liking everything that's been coming from Marvel lately, and now we have Black Panther, which is definitely a completely different kind of Marvel film, while still fitting in with the rest of the cinematic universe. Of course, this film is very important. It has an entirely black cast, which is pretty unique for superheroes. Sadly unique, but unique nonetheless, and it's a big moment for diversity in the film itself. So that is a real important milestone. It's really important to black people in general. But other than that, the nice thing is that it's still a really, really good movie as well. It's not just a milestone, it is a good movie. The story is really good. I will say that at first it is a little slow, especially since when I see the film, I was told that it wasn't going to be an origin story, and it still kind of was an origin story. They still had to wrap up a lot of things that happened after Civil War with T'Challa's dad dying and everything, but they wrapped that up real quick. They introduced how he's going to become Black Panther, how he becomes the king and such. They really do a good job of explaining this universe, this new country, the mythology and the culture of all this. So I really like that fact. But it was a little slow at first just because I do need to introduce all that stuff. However, right around the time that Andy Serkis's character from Age of Ultron shows up and they have to go take him down, and that leads to a bunch of other people intersecting one another, that's when the story starts getting really good. And it's not a complicated story, it's a very simple story with a lot of really good themes to it. This is the first film since in the Marvel Cinematic Universe since, I would say, Iron Man, that's had really real-world problems shown throughout. A lot of real-world political issues. Sure, and Winter Soldier had its issues as well, but this one really tackles it a lot more than I thought it was gonna do, and they did it in a really good and kind of... It wasn't pounding into your skull the kind of message that they were trying to get across. It was subtle when it needed to be subtle, and it was in your face when it was supposed to be in your face. And I thought that was really well done. The different dynamics of all the characters and all the different decisions they have to make and all the different point of views that they have is done really well. And that's what makes the villain end up working so well. Michael B. Jordan's in the film. He's the villain. And he has a very well done arc, one of the best done arcs for a villain in any of these Marvel films. While the villains have been getting better lately, I really liked the Vulture, I really liked Kurt Russell as Ego, they still were a little one-dimensional at certain points. Like, I feel like they haven't really made a real good three-dimensional character for a villain yet, except now. Like, this is actually a really well done villain. I guess Loki was good too, so this is on the same level as Loki. The performance is done really well. It's kind of heartbreaking at times, especially towards the end, and it really worked, and I was real glad for that. The different story dilemmas between T'Challa and his father especially are done really well, and the seriousness of the film really works. The last couple Marvel films have been pretty silly. There's been a lot of jokes to them, and I don't mind that. I really do like the funny, jokey stuff, but it was about time we did another serious Marvel film, something that was on the same level as, Iron Man or Winter Soldier, and we finally got it with this. This takes its subject matter seriously. It's a serious movie with serious issues, but there is still some good jokes in there, and even some modern-day references that they work. I don't know, and I could even see them being timeless in the end, the way it works. So it's a really well-done film. Ryan Coogler, obviously... he has a real good sense of how to just make a great, engaging story, and how to take as much... He knows how to make the most of it. I mean, if you look at something like Creed, you wouldn't think that a spin-off to Rocky could have been, especially a story that's simple and so obvious, could have been so great, and yet it works. He just adds all these elements to it, all these story dilemmas that make it a great film, and this is in that exact same rank. I mean, it's right up there with Creed. I think I might like Creed a little bit more, but Black Panther is still just, it's some of the best work that I've seen out of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The characters are all done really well. the main character of Black Panther, played by Chadwick Boseman, while he has a kind of an element to him that it's like he's sort of like Superman or Wonder Woman, where he's just a very he's just a great good character, and the portrayal is done so well that you get kind of past the point that he's not technically that interesting. I will say that his character probably is the biggest failure of this movie, in that he just kind of isn't interesting, but it's just such a good performance that you get past that. It's just like how Superman or Wonder Woman is. It's just such a good and terrifically well done performance. It's an important performance. And I really liked, of course, as I said, Michael B. Jordan as the villain, really well done there. Martin Freeman shows up, and I always like him in like pretty much everything he's in, and he's just as great here. Other characters like Lupita Nyong'o, she did a really good job, and I don't know, just everyone does a good job. Even Forrest Whitaker, which I'm usually not a fan of him, he works really well in this film, and that's another point, is that a lot of the actors that show up are really noticeable. And when you haven't seen them in any other Marvel film, but they all show up here and you have so many big names in one movie, it could get a little distracting. But the way the movie does it, especially with the makeup, especially with the culture that it's in, and it's just with the portrayals, you get past that. You don't really think of them as the actors, you really just see the characters. The visual effects are good. It's kind of like, it's just gotta... It's beautiful CGI, you know, and you can tell that it's CGI, you can tell that there's green screens going on, but it's so beautiful that you kind of ignore it, especially during the dream sequence where he's walking around meeting his father, after he's died. It's this really beautiful landscape. It kind of looks like a landscape you'd actually see for like a Windows or Apple computer background. But no, it like looks really beautiful, and it looks obviously fake, but it just works because it's just beautiful looking, and that's what a lot of this film is. And there's a lot of beautiful shots. Cinematography is great. I already said the makeup's great. The colors really pop. It's very unique. And then the music. I listened to the album beforehand that was done by Kendrick Lamar along with a bunch of other artists, and I thought that the album was pretty good. A lot of those tracks show up in this film, especially during the car chase. There's a really good track there. And when they're entering the, the underground gambling place, that's got some really good music there. But then the score itself, that was done separate to Kendrick Lamar's tracks, is really good. The score is really, there's a lot of different unique instruments used in it that's not typically in other movies, and I really like that. The Stan Lee cameo was really good, of course. Gotta mention that, as always. It's one of the funnier ones. Overall, I can't think of anything that I really disliked about this movie. I will just say that the beginning, was a little bit slow, and that was just because I think that was just origin story syndrome. The fact that they gotta introduce this stuff, they have to kind of explain things, they kind of need to explain how he becomes the king. But after that, it's really well paced, and this is a long movie, but leaving the theater I didn't realize it was as long as it actually was. This was almost a 2.5 hour movie, and it doesn't feel like that. It is a well-paced movie, and Marvel has been real good at doing that lately. I can't, at this point, I just can't see them failing, and I'm really proud of the work that they've done. I think this is a huge milestone. People who are saying superhero movies are dead, I think they were way off, because there's a lot of different themes that could be tackled still, and a lot of different, in terms of diversity, characters that could be done. So eventually we're going to be getting Captain Marvel, which will have Brie Larson as the first woman superhero, and I mean, hey, you know what, we got to do some more stuff. We got to have the first... we gotta have someone who's Asian eventually being one of the characters, or someone who's Indian or Native American. We need all kinds of different characters still. So I think there's still lots to be done with superhero movies, and I'm not getting tired of them yet. And I know people say they are getting tired of them, but the box office numbers sure don't show that. So I really enjoyed this movie. I really hope there's a sequel. I hope Ryan Coogler comes back, and if he doesn't, get someone else, that will at least maybe have a different style, so then you can, you know, kind of like what they did with Winter Soldier and the original Captain America. They both are tonally different films, but they're still unique in their own sense, and they feel like they're part of a whole. Do that same thing with Black Panther too, if you have to get a different director. But in the end, I hope they keep Ryan Coogler. Just keep him around. So go see the movie. I'm sure you're gonna go see the movie anyway. It's gonna be one of the biggest movies this year, and it's an exciting ride with really well done action sequences, really interesting designs and costume designs, really interesting universe, and yeah, it's about time. I liked it.